We were told she was a curse. We were told her curiosity destroyed the world. But what if the first woman wasn't a mistake, but a masterpiece of divine revenge? In the early days of the world, after the Great War of the Titans, the Earth was a quiet place. Humans lived in the shadows, cold and shivering, until the Titan Prometheus defied the heavens. He climbed the heights of Olympus and stole a single, glowing coal from the sun, bringing the gift of fire to the shivering mortals below. To the humans, it was a blessing. To Zeus, the king of the gods, it was a theft that demanded a heavy price. Zeus did not want to simply strike the humans down with lightning. He wanted a punishment that looked like a prize, a gift so beautiful and so complex that mankind would welcome their own undoing. For this, he summoned Hephaestus, the master of the forge. Hephaestus was a god of sweat, soot, and mountain fire. He lived in the belly of volcanoes, where the heavy, raw smell of molten metal filled the air. When he arrived on Olympus, his hands were stained with oil, and his brow was wet from the heat of his bellows. Zeus pointed toward a pile of fine, riverbank clay, and gave a command that had never been heard before. Do not forge me a sword, and do not build me a throne. Use this earth to mold a daughter. Make her so perfect that even the gods will be jealous of her grace. Hephaestus knelt by the clay. With his powerful, calloused fingers, he began to work. He didn't use hammers or anvils this time. He moved with a gentleness that surprised the other gods who watched from the shadows. He carved the curve of her jaw, the delicate arch of her brow, and the soft lines of her hands. As the sun set over Olympus, the figure of a woman began to emerge from the mud. She was Pandora, the all-gifted. Once the clay was shaped, the great hall of Olympus became a flurry of divine activity. The gods gathered around the still, silent figure to give her their treasures. Athena draped her in robes of woven silver that shimmered like a waterfall. Aphrodite breathed a sweet, intoxicating perfume onto her skin, ensuring that any man who looked at her would feel his heart skip a beat. Hermes, the messenger, leaned in and whispered into her ears, giving her a voice as smooth as honey and the ability to weave stories out of thin air. But Zeus had the final touch. As he breathed life into the clay, making her heart beat and her eyes open for the first time, he planted a little spark deep in her mind. It wasn't a spark of fire, but a spark of curiosity. It was a restless, itching need to know the unknown. Before Pandora was sent down to the world of men, Zeus handed her a heavy, ornate jar. Its surface was covered in carvings of twisting vines and screaming faces, but it was sealed tight with a heavy lid. "This is your dowry," Zeus told her with a cold, knowing smile. "It contains riches beyond measure, but it must never, under any circumstance, be opened. To open it is to lose everything." Pandora was welcomed into the world of men like a fallen star. She was beautiful, kind, and brilliant, but the jar sat in the corner of her home, a silent passenger in her new life. For months, the suffocating silence of the jar called to her. She would sit by it at night, watching the way the moonlight hit the carvings. She wondered if it held golden jewelry, or perhaps a secret map to the stars. The spark Zeus had planted grew into a flame. One afternoon, when the house was quiet and the air was still, Pandora couldn't take it anymore. She told herself she would only peek, just a tiny crack to see the glow of the treasures inside. She placed her hands on the heavy lid. The metal felt cold, like a winter grave. As she pulled, the jar didn't just open, it exhaled. A thick, black mist erupted from the jar, swirling around the room like a swarm of angry hornets. These were the spirits of sickness, old age, greed, and toil. They flew out of the windows and doors, spreading across the green earth, turning the eternal spring into a world of pain and hardship. Pandora screamed, realizing the trick Zeus had played. She slammed the lid back down with all her strength, her heart hammering against her ribs. She wept, thinking she had destroyed the world. But then she heard a sound. It wasn't a roar or a hiss. It was a tiny, rhythmic tapping coming from inside the jar. Trembling, she lifted the lid one last time. From the very bottom of the jar, a small, golden light fluttered out. It was hope. Zeus had intended for hope to be the ultimate cruelty, to keep men living even when life was hard. But Hephaestus, the god who knew what it was like to work through pain and rejection, had ensured that hope was the strongest gift of all. The story of Pandora isn't just a tale of a box or a mistake. It is a reminder that no matter how much darkness is released into the world, there is always a little spark left at the bottom to guide us home.